Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you so very much for joining me on another episode of Talking Innovation. And that's what we do. And I'm trying to do it myself, changing up the background a little bit, innovating. And man, I got to tell you, I am so excited. I've told you so many times, every time on the intro, I'm the Gilligan in this equation. But man, I get some pretty remarkable professors. And today, I mean, if you look at this guy, uh, I mean, I was just reading this, David. You've literally built four of the largest platforms on the planet in your career so far. That's definitely something I want to hear more about. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've got the Chief Information Security Officer at Atlassian, David Cross. It's so great to have you, David. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Grant. It's really excited, and thanks for reaching out. I always love engaging and talking to the community, right? And not just a scripted dialogue. Let's actually talk about some meaningful things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wrote down a few questions just because there's so much in your background that I'm really interested in, and especially some of the more current things I think that are happening that I really, for me, what I'm kind of excited about is what's happening in the world, like everybody's talking about. Um, and it was a couple of years ago, David, that I really decided, because I'm not formally schooled like you with the MBAs and everything. I mean, everything's kind of just because I've been in the biz since '83. Um, and you have to learn to constantly be paddling up to the top of the wave on the next thing, right? That's kind of how I feel. Every other time I've always felt like I was able to get up on my board and actually ride that wave, metaphorically. But this is one where I mean, I spend a lot of time, but I still feel like I'm on the back of the wave paddling to try to catch up with all the remarkable changes that are happening in the world of AI. And especially now with, is it Rovo?
Yep.
It's this whole new world where I've got little robots running around taking action for me and then disappearing. I mean, there's some really interesting ramifications. And so I'm eager to talk about just kind of what's going on with AI agents and how they went from tools to literally autonomous robots and just all the things that are going on. But before I get into that, let me ask you, I mentioned this, but I mean, again, thank you for your service. You went from the Navy, electronic warfare, to building Azure security at Microsoft, to running security for Atlassian. What's the through line through all those chapters?
Well, I guess the way I think about it is, why always be in security? Why I'd like security? It's because it's always dynamic. It's always changing, right? It's not, it's not just getting stale, and that's the exciting thing about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that security is not just a specialized thing. It's heavily based on just fundamental computer science and business, but at the same time, it's dynamic, it's agile, and that's what makes it exciting and fun. And sometimes could be some stressful for some people, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I always love to say, bringing in the being a veteran, this is where the military training gives you an advantage. And this is why I'm a big proponent, for many companies, is hiring veterans sometimes could be a big advantage to you in your business.
David, I tell you, one of the analogies that I've mentioned on this program before, I'd be curious what you think of. But to me, when I step back and I look at industries overall and I look at cybersecurity, I don't really see any parallel with one exception, and that's kinetic war. You get a better weapon, I get a better weapon. And you're constantly jousting back and forth. But there's one big difference. And that is, it seems anyway, for the most part, eventually we get to a white flag. Eventually we get there either because we've pummeled you and we blew you to smithereens or whatever it is, but there gets to be an end. And it doesn't seem that's common in the cyber world because we'll forever have anonymity and someone that wants to exploit it. And so it seems like it's the same in every way, except it's never going to end.
Well, in some degrees, it's always going to be the horse race, right? You'd be leaping ahead, right? Or,
Yep.
or it's, the red versus blue or offense versus defense, right? It's always going to be a back and forth. And I think that's the nature of humanity to a degree, right?
Mm,
But also, again, I come back to, my military theme or veteran things is like, it's about principles and fundamentals that really help you through this,
totally.
like integrity, honesty, attention to detail, loyalty, right? And training by the book, right? In the military, we train by the book, right? We have
Yep.
to play. So just like in cybersecurity, or let's say cloud operations, you have playbooks. You know how to operate, and when you operate by the playbook, you recover. Things are safe. You have business continuity, right?
Yep.
And you train like you're going to fight. This is why you do tabletops. This is why you do exercises. This is
Yep.
why we have the chaos theory, right?
Right.
Those type of things. And I think that's where sometimes bringing people in that know how to operate under those things can really help you across, many disciplines and many roles, not just security.
Yeah, totally right. So, I'm reading, and one of the things that I heard you say is that CISOs really do need to be technical, or at least have a good technical foundation, not just a governance background. So it seems like AI is changing the game fast. Is that seems like it's got to be affecting how a CISO rolls and what's going on in a CISO's life, right?
Absolutely. I definitely raised some heckles and some friction, about 2 years ago, I think. And I think I was at a CISO event. Maybe this might be a teammate one, I think, whatever. And I said, CISOs need to be technical. And I was under fire.
I'll bet.
And but then that was just about when AI is supposed to come on board now. And so you think about, a CISO or a CIO or an operational leader, right? And say that, no, you don't need to know AI. You don't need to
Mm,
understand prompting. You don't need to know how vibe coding works. That is probably one of the most ridiculous things someone could say right now, right?
it's so true. It's so true. Do
And
you
I,
see? I'm interrupting. I'm sorry, but I just you're hitting on something that really I feel like I don't know the truth. I don't know the difference between the wheat and the chaff. And what I'm
Mhm.
talking about is you hear all this shit about how much it's changing everybody, and you see a bunch of layoffs, but is there my visual is an egg. You got the yolk, and that's everybody that gets it. But then you've got the white. And it seems like they're all the ones that are just kind of like, I mean, I've read statistics where over 50% of, workers never use AI. I find that so startling. So I'm just curious, what's the truth? What's really going out? What's happening? And is it only in tech companies or is it really pervasive?
No, I think about this, from a general perspective is think about computers. When computers first came in, did everyone need to use it? No. But nowadays, would you hire anybody in almost any role that says, I don't know how to use a computer? That's
Right,
unbelievable, right? But it
right.
took a while. Then we have the internet. We have smartphones, right? Nowadays, can you really survive in any type of role or employment and not be able to use a smartphone?
Right.
Very questionable, isn't it? Now, the real difference here, I think, with AI is it happens so fast. It's
Mm,
changing things so quickly. And I think that is what people are struggling with is they're used to adapting, but they have time,
right.
a few years or things like that. AI changed the world in just 18 months.
Yep.
And I think that's the difference here.
Yeah, well, that's why I feel like I'm on the back of that wave constantly. But I think also, David, do you? I'm have been really big, especially the last, probably 3 years on preaching. Be informed, watch videos, know what transformer is fundamentally, just conceptually as a technology, what it meant to the transformation, because machine learning's been around since the
Okay.
50s, right? So, something had to have happened. And what I've often speculated is how many that are wrapping up chat gpt really understand the probabilistic nature of the technology overall, that really understand what's happening, or if they're just a lemming off the cliff.
Well, let's get going to use the analogy is then let's talk about the internet. how many people actually know what TCP and IP are? Do they really need to know that?
Yeah,
No.
that's true. That's true. That's
Maybe
true.
we some for most people saying, is like they kind of have to know what an IP address is, but not 100% of the time. Right? So behind the scenes, do they need to know the DHCP protocol is being used to get their IP address? They don't actually, right?
Yeah.
So for AI, what do they really need to know about models and those things? No, they just need to know how to use it. The one thing
Yeah.
they need to know is prompting, how to
Yeah.
prompt, right? And the good thing is it's not rocket science.
Right.
Compared to back 10, 15 years ago, taking Andrew Ng's, Coursera course on machine learning, like, whoa, I need to refresh my calculus. This is
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
AI is not like that. Look, go
Yeah.
spend a few hours and learn how to prompt, and
Yep.
then, it kicks off from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that was actually one of the first things I would advocate is if there's a skill that every company should be training every one of their people on, it's prompting.
Hmm.
It's understanding the nomenclature that their particular AI wants to hear, likes to hear, prefers, because that's all outlined. It's understanding it's what I call it is it's badminton, right? You're kind of hit the shuttlecock and it comes back over and then no, that's not right. I want this. And we'll dig into that, right? I mean, to learn to have that volley in interaction as opposed to what I call, Google, it's a sniper. I want a duck with a green head on a lake. When you type that exactly the same, and you're going to get the same answer every time. And but that's also one of the things it seems that's for me remarkable in the enterprise when you consider every tool we've relied on, depended on. It's been a set it and forget it. It's been a deterministic solution that, it works this way. Here's the answer. And now we've got something that's so remarkable and compelling. I mean, just game changing that the appetite for that is accepted, right? We're going into this world where we're saying, hey, we're going to take probably because it's probably right with a great answer. But what about, what's, it just seems like there's a different requirement in the interactions with AI that go beyond um, blocking and stopping. But I got to be able to, especially if you're talking about ephemeral agents, that conducts some transaction or behavior or decision making and then disappear. Doesn't there have to be some means to prove what it did?
That's a good question. I think what we're seeing here over the past 18 months, so two parts, is one is it is getting better and we're seeing far less hallucination, right? But I think that's one of the risks is that some people that are taking the results and the results, from AI and accepting it as facts and the
Right.
truth, right? And there's no validation of it, right?
Yep.
It's certainly getting better, but is it 100%? Of course not. Will it be 100% ever? We'll debate that, right?
Right.
I think that's one. If you look at a year and a half ago, it was very question results. Now, it's getting better and better. So that's one.
Yep.
The second element is I think that is of I actually love this is that it learning from me, right? It has data of, it knows what I'm interested in. It knows what I'm producing. It knows what I'm working on. So it knows my style. It knows what I like. It knows what I'm spending my time on.
Yep.
And therefore, it's easier and easier for me to use AI. I don't have to do complex templatizing and very detailed prompting because it knows exactly what I want.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
love that because it makes it even easier for me to use.
Yeah. You can build uh, personas of teams literally within a prompt that can carry through. And if, as long as you continue to remind it to remember and say that, and if you run out, then shuttle out the stuff that's not important. And it's pretty remarkable how you can have a entrepreneur, a CTO, a developer, a marketing person. You can call the team, and they all know it, and they know what your mission is. And it is truly remarkable. And I'm super excited, but I'm also kind of, um, I don't know if freaked out is the right word, but there's some really wild stuff going on right now. The capabilities are so attainable, it's just scary. But I want to talk about what I think you said regarding agentic AI and identity crisis.
Mm.
You know, walk through, why do you think the existing tools, models are not going to work for autonomous agents?
Well, I think the big change that we're seeing here now is we now have a new non-human identity, but actually it's really a clone of human identity. And so for
Mm-hmm.
us, we have to have a bit of a variant of like, we need to manage these identities. And the reality is with all these agents, there's going to be not 10, maybe there's 100 clones of me, right? That are
Right.
now, what's tricky now is that we want it to acting as me because it's my agent or it's my like there's this new um, chief of staff for CISOs, right? For a company called Axaria, right? AXARII. It's very fascinating. It's like it's going to do all these things for me, right? Uh, but I need to control those identities, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of the new shift, I think, of identity and access management, privileged access management. And we just kind of need their incumbents to kind of take this on, and they will, and be part of that again, right? We just haven't had this requirement before. And now, if we go back for those of us with the gray hairs here, here's the real answer. Remember ABAC, attribute-based access control? That,
Yeah. Yeah.
we only need this in the military, we only need this in, National Security Agency. And it's so academic, we're never going to use it. But guess what? I think that's the solution we need,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. That's very interesting, especially when you're talking about the agents. And I think obviously one of the huge dynamics that's different, although there's similarities, is the number of times an agent can interact, connect, disconnect, move around, chain, compared to the number of, the speed at which I can log in and interact. There's some significant differences just at the scale on which these duplicate me's can operate. And I think that creates a bit of a challenge too.
Yeah, I think that's the element of observability, right? Certainly, we saw at the RSA conference, last
Mm,
week. Wow, it seems like it was more than a week ago, but it was only last week. And it's really is that everyone needs the observability, right? Of these things because the identities. It's easy to have observability of one identity. Yes, when did I log in? Did I use multi-factor? Where am I
right.
logging in from? What type of device? Now, if there's 100 of those, wow, we expanded that restricted or that overall controlled access, right?
Yeah.
Zero
Yeah.
trust, right? So it's more of like, okay, we need to be agile, we're going to change, but I think we're going to see it here in the not too distant future.
Hmm. So you think that uh, that because for me it seems like there's the evolution's moving to, we're having a lot of autonomous agents that actually are taking action now, ephemeral. I think of Snapchat, it's just disappears. Well, that may be fine for a message to a girl or something, but in enterprise, that seems like it might be an area of risk and exposure if you don't have some way to address that.
Yeah, I certainly think I'll say maybe the way I think about this, it's like it depends on the type of agent, right? And so today in a lot of our houses, right, we have robot vacuums, right? We have some control over that through the apps, like, but do we have to have a really tight monitoring them with cameras? No, not really, right?
Right.
But let's take another example. Let's talk about the agents that are coding, right, and doing these coding. They can do much more powerful things because their code will become reality, right, or become actions. And so
Right.
therefore, like, well, maybe we need an agent to monitor the agents, right?
Mm.
Who will watch the watchers? This is where we're seeing the companies like Striker.ai, Gnostic.ai, and others that are kind of saying we're going to help watching that because it's a human can't just watch that like
Right.
other robots.
Right. Right. Fascinating. Fascinating. So tell me about, because I'm curious, 30 plus patents in security technology?
Mostly, yeah.
And what do you think? Is there a particular problem that hasn't been cracked yet that you think about?
I certainly have been thinking, can't if I don't file it yet, so I can't tell you the secret, right?
Okay.
But certainly you can guess it's going to be in the AI space. It's going to be the agentic security space, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about some ideas. And my two secrets are, when do I come up with my best ideas? There's one of two places. One is like, I'm a runner, enjoy running. Take
Yeah.
a very, very long run, right? And it gives you, especially like the half marathon, long distances, is then you kind of become an audience to yourself and you can start thinking about hard problems, right? You get to
Huh.
that zone.
Yeah.
Or at very long flights on an airplane. Yes, you had a meal, a glass of wine, you watch a movie, but then you're not going anywhere, right? And that's the
Right.
time you can really sit there and reflect and think. And it's amazing, just like, a long time ago when you were in school, right? Here's a hard problem and you got to be done with this by next week. And you're like, hmm. But
Yeah.
we can get out of the zone and think about things. It's
Yep.
amazing what kind of problems you can solve.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's always for me. I think it's been a benefit, quite frankly, in some ways, maybe not all, because I don't always look at everything the same way. I kind of will sometimes look at them differently because I haven't, I mean, when I owned MetaInfo and I went to the guy who was director of development for me, I mean, these guys are putting a UI on. It's funny you said DHCP because the argument I had is, I wanted to create what we ended up branding as safe DHCP, which was nothing more than a full mask in a network of one until you got a health check. I made sure your registries were okay and you weren't going to piss all over my network. And then I knacked you and got you onto the network, right? And this was back in the era when reps would come in with their laptops or luggables and plug them in, and then they'd be, messing up your network. And Steve, I love telling this story because I says, man, I want to make this. I want to build this. This is sellable. And he looked at me, and this is exactly what he said. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that's fucking stupid. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, all you got to do is go out to the C prompt and self assign an IP address. I mean, and I said, Steve, you know how to do that. But the vast majority of people that are going to be coming onto the internet, they just know that their hard drive flickers and then they can get onto eBay, or Facebook or MySpace at the time. I mean, that was it. And so this is really to your earlier point, right? The vast majority have no idea what DHCP even is or does, and really they don't need to, as long as they can get to where they need to go. And so that ended up, frankly, David, being our most successful product, and then we ended up putting it on a virtual appliance because VMware came out, and man, it was like a license to print money. No more shipping appliances, just, install the image. It was a beautiful thing. And it went really well because we had even got to market before NAC from Cisco. But boy, when they came out, I'm not kidding, that was when my boat was listing. They froze the market because everybody was waiting for NAC. But anyway, that's an old story. But
Grant, I can't resist bringing up now, right? You mentioned the command line and those type of things. Like, it's gone away, right? And we're never going to see it again. But let's talk about AI and ChatGPT and Gemini and all those. Are people using a UI, or are they typing in something in a command line for the
yeah,
prompt?
good point. Yeah.
Has
And
the
and then
command line come back, everybody?
yeah, or here's another one. What about those that have taken that next step and have terminal open and are running Claude code and a team in Claude, and they're volleying back and forth between themselves? That's a fascinating experience, quite frankly. It's amazing what a Gilligan can do.
Absolutely. And I think as people get more advanced, it's like crawl, walk, run, right? People like, hey, just putting some prompts in your favorite, AI, but then you're like, hey, putting the various delimiters and hashtags and other, the templating, people, this is through command line, right? People
Yeah.
are coming back to that, right? And that's
Yeah.
exciting, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
I
the
do
nice
too.
thing is, do people need to go get, a massive degree or massive weeks and training to do this? No, it's
Yeah.
actually, you can learn it in just a few hours to get
Yeah.
started. When that is
I,
the nice, exciting thing about this.
it is absolutely the most powerful, impactful, accessible technology I've ever seen in my life,
Agreed.
because it is on it is literally those two three on at extremes. It is so simple. I mean, I found myself working on a project that I was on my laptop on, and I'm away, I'm on my phone, and and I'll pull up Claude and I'll log in and go to that prompt and continue it. I mean, it's amazing because I can just tell it what I want it, and my team knows me and remembers me on that particular project.
Yep.
It's, I find I just don't know how anybody that's ever had an exposure to it couldn't say. Remember 10 years ago when the words were, "Yeah, we're a cloud first company."
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
It was cloud first, and that was like, whoa, so progressive. Dude, I am a AI first guy
Mhm.
in just about everything I do. The other day, I'm not joking. I was at Safeway and there was a couple of steaks, they were roasts and they were different kinds and I wasn't sure. And so I took a picture of each side by side, sent them up to Gemini and said, which is better? Yeah. And I mean, that kind of accessibility, remarkable, let alone the fact you can build software, design things, just to have I mean, it's getting to the point now where if David wants 150, soon probably to be 200 IQ points on any subject matter or discipline, he can get it.
Well, 2 points I would say certainly is, one is I could think about a year and a half ago when I joined Atlassian, it's really like the AI was just really kind of really starting to take off. And when I joined with Rovo and I said, wow, I got amazed because I say, my first question with Rovo was, how many laptops do we have in the company that we need to secure? Like, and it told me in seconds. I'm like, my gosh, this is amazing. But
Wow.
now, right, like what did I ask today is I could say the same thing with our teamwork graph. I could say, or no, I could say with my organization, what are people working on? What is their highest priorities? What does their next priorities need to be? And where are all the people spending their time? And really in a minute,
Hmm.
with Rovo and the teamwork graph, it has all those answers for me, which sometimes could take people in the past weeks to try to collect and distill
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
summarize. And the world's changed. But
Hmm.
but at the same time, it's we're being more productive, right? And we still need humans because ultimately, did Rovo or AI in any context you say, or when you were in the grocery store, did Gemini tell you what to buy?
Of course
You
not.
made the decision, right? You
Yep.
took that
Absolutely.
advice.
Yep.
Just like I take it from Rovo, here's the things, and I have enough knowledge, right? It's like
Yep.
that, okay, I know this is accurate. I know this is reasonable. I can now make a decision. And I think
Completely.
the human element is still very important and always will be.
Critically important. And actually, David, while I understand the reason it's called an agent, in terms of the architecture, I like assistant.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, mentally, in my mind, that's just what I always think. I just hired an assistant that knows just about everything on the internet. Uh, And so I have to think of the effort I'm putting into what I want from this assistant. Hey, can you write me a good email? I mean, I'm going to get back that effort. Sure. Right. What do you want it about? Okay, here. But if I say you are, and your task is, and your role is, and your experience is, and really profile and then ask for it, man, it's amazing. And those are the techniques I think that people really need to learn and exercise. The Because you're so spot on. It is a terminal, but it's a terminal, and it's understanding. how critical it is to really be verbose and use multiple descriptor words, right? Thorough, rigorous, complete, detailed. I want you to do all of those, not just a thorough, right? Because that helps trigger an even tighter discipline on the task. I mean, would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. The other thing I think is very important, which many people don't forget, is they worry about hallucination. They worry about whether it's code that may have errors, or bugs, or security vulnerabilities.
Right.
Sometimes it's more of like how you pivot with multiple agents, or you pivot on different angles. Like, here, write me the code to do X. Now look at the code and say, does it have vulnerabilities? Look at this code and will it have resource consumption? Look at this code and will it have reliability issues?
Totally.
Because it's a different point of view. You could have done that all through a template, and the experts are doing that. But as a human, right, or a non-expert, you
Yep.
can ask a set of these questions, and you're going to get to exactly where you want it to be.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I feel one of the things that is an advantage, I was telling my wife this, that even though I am a Gilligan, the 5 years I owned a software company, I learned a tremendous amount about commit and repos and just all kind of the nomenclature of pushing and builds and understanding. We got to test, we've got to have constant QA, we need to do a pen test, we need to do a security test as you go through the stages. And I think that helps to be able to exploit the accessibility of the tools, certainly for me myself. So I'm curious, uh, do you guys like implement and utilize RAG much? Are you using AI Copilot? What's your, as much as you can share on your use?
Oh, certainly, yeah. We say Rovo. Certainly, we have Rovo Dev, we have Rovo Search. We have Rovo CLI, and so pretty much, we've built it upon that. And as mentioned before, is like everything is human assisted or human decisions, right? So yes, we've talked about before. Yeah, we're generating a lot of code, based on Rovo, and at the same time, we're testing our code, right? And it's well over 50 some percent of like,
Mm,
hey, we're finding the vulnerabilities and automatically fixing these before it
mm.
goes upstream, and those type of things based on Rovo as well. But
And
everything,
Rovo, help me understand, just for the audience as
sure.
well. Rovo's an agent. Do you have your own private LLM, or how's that all work?
Yeah, Rovo is our platform, right? And we build on top of that for all those type of things. So we kind of build
Okay,
on various of the other LMs underneath it, right, and the different sources. But that's our overall platform that you can use, and that's what the
okay,
name that we have. So everything
got it,
from chat to desktop to Rovo Dev, for the developer, the command line, all those type of things, right, that we can do.
got it, got it.
And you can build agents on top of Rovo. It's like, seems like every week I'm like, oh, I'll build another agent because I can do it in 5 minutes. I can go,
Wow,
what do I want to do? And with Rovo and creating an agent, I can do it in 5 minutes. And it's
wow,
ready, up and running, ready to work. It's
it's
nowadays,
amazing.
if you have to do anything tedious or time consuming, it's like, I'll just go create an agent because it's only going to take me less than 5 minutes.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of agents are coming out. It's uh, the era of the agent factory, right? I mean, that's the term I hear. And you see Agent Force being the name as opposed to Salesforce, right? It's going to be all about agents. Microsoft's doing it, Oracle's doing it, you guys are doing it. I mean, it's everybody doing it. And I guess there's a, I think there's a NIST paper that was out about the identity for agents, right? Did you see that? I think it's
Yeah,
closed now, but it was open up till the end of March or something.
yeah, I think that just recently came out a couple weeks ago, didn't it? But I have not
Yeah, and
looked
they
at
were
it.
asking for
Yeah,
comments or whatever. And I know, um, I thought it was kind of interesting. Again, for me, it seems like we need to have there's identity and there's access, but in this new world, we also have to have a kind of a a validation, certification, confirmation, something that says, yes, this is how that chain behaved, even though they disappeared. I've got it. It's right here. It's encrypted. Nobody can touch it. You know what I mean? Something that just kind of makes it easy to prove the behavior of the AI.
Well, the way I think about this and the way we've been thinking about it a little bit is like, hey, building observability, right? And actually, it wasn't that hard to do, right? We build it on top of our platform. The idea is like, hey, what is the agent doing? What permissions does it have? What was the policy? What are the logs? Is it having logging? And then, alerting based on that, right?
Right.
But in the end, sometimes it's saying everything will be fine, but what if something goes wrong? You just want the logs and alerting saying they go back, okay, let me find out what wrong and let's correct that, right?
Right.
In a
Right.
general sense, if you have the logs, you're always going to end up in a good spot. If you don't have logs, nothing good comes from that.
Yeah, they say anything and everything you need to know and want to know is in your logs. If it's for sure, and I guess it comes down to the ease and in which you can access those logs and produce an audit for the new laws that are coming, right? Because there's the EU AI Act. There's
Mm-hmm.
numbers that are now, they're looking for more than they're looking for, how did it actually behave?
Yeah, I think this is going to be quite interesting, and I think it's being careful here. I think it's challenging. I think that if we have every country, every province, every entity, right, saying, "Oh, here's the policy, here's the regulation," it can be challenging because can you comply when there are
Right.
so many, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the challenge that's facing the world and industry at large.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. And you're seeing state AI policy popping up now. I think Colorado has one. California just talked about announcing one. Um, so it's going to be interesting. And now you hear the administration talking about how they're going to put out something federally. It is kind of interesting. And then of course the EU and their
Yeah.
uh, pressure. It's definitely going to be an influence. But maybe it'll come down to when something happens that forces it, right? So often um, events occur that drive market changes. The FBI left his laptop in the cab, and next thing you know, full disk encryption came out. That was many years ago, but I remember that story. And you have those types of episodes. So it'll be interesting. But gosh, you hear about the all this stuff we're talking about. Um, but at the same time, we have adversaries. Boy, the accessibility to the tools is the same. The accessibility to the development is the same. They can use the dark stuff that has no guardrails. And don't you think we're in for a real tsunami here? Things are just going to get really gnarly.
And certainly this was a big topic at the RSA last week by a number of people. In a general sense, I go back to the element of the horse race, and there's not the element of equality that everyone has access to the same source and things like that. Both the blue team and red team,
Yep.
the attackers and the defenders, right? And one of the good things now is that the attackers may have access to things and can identify the vulnerabilities and exploits, but the defenders can do it just as fast as well, right? And not only can they just identify it, we can actually fix it, right?
Yep.
As faster than ever before. You think about some of the legacy code and things, people are like, wow, John Doe has left the company 10 years ago. No one's looked at this code. No one wants to touch it. It'll take them weeks to look at it. Now AI can look at it in seconds and minutes and say, no, this is how you fix it. And you don't have to worry about it.
And fix it for you.
Exactly.
Which is remarkable, right? So it seems like what it's done, using that badminton metaphor, is it's like pong. I mean, it's just the back and forth is just so much closer and tighter.
Are
Uh,
you, Grant? Are you referring to the Atari break route? We know when back and
I'm
forth.
sorry. Yeah, that's were you the guy that mentioned gray hair, and so I had to throw in the fact that that's me. Listen, this has been awesome. I'm curious. Um, what things would you like to? Uh, I mean, you're a very accomplished executive. You've been with some remarkable companies. You've built some amazing platforms. What advice would you give as the guy that's, we've talked, I think, about some of it, right? Dig into AI, teach your people to prompt, absolutely critical. But from a CISO lens, what advice do you have?
Whether it's a CISO or anything, I've always say the same thing as keep learning. I go back to when I left the military and I wanted to join Microsoft. I wasn't ready, right? So like, nope, I need to refresh myself and keep learning, right? And so I said, hey, 4 hours a week, I'm investing in myself, and I've done it, since then for 25, 30 years now,
Yeah.
as I'm always learning, because I don't know if I agree with you about it's about paddling up, trying to stay above the water, keep your head above water. It's more of the constant is that you're always learning. That means you're always going to be on top of the water. The moment you
Yeah.
say I'm done, that means you're done, right?
Yeah. My metaphor is more technology is a wave and it's racing. And I'm on the back of that wave trying to get up to the top to surf it. That's kind of more, it's not that I'm sinking, it's that I'm not up where every other wave of technology I've been able to get up onto the board and really ride it, where I don't feel I'm doing that because it's not giving me that chance. It's racing faster every moment, not staying even at that steady rate. And so that's what I mean by trying to chase that wave. But it is about learning. I think that I feel blessed that I've been in this biz for 43 years, and it's the only way I've been able to survive is to constantly learn. But my curiosity is still high enough. I find it fascinating. I've said many times, doesn't matter when you get in this industry, you're getting in the beginning of something. And that's what makes it so fascinating. But you do have to keep up with it or you'll just get run over.
Well, I think it's everyone. You make the choice, right? And one of the things I say in life is about work-life balance. I say it's work-life choice, right?
Yeah.
And everyone makes the choice of what they want and what they
Yeah.
want to get, and you make the choice of like where do you want to stretch and where do you not, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to achieve and what do you not, right?
I
And
couldn't agree with you
just
more.
like learning, right? I'm a work hard, play hard person. I want to achieve certain things. Like, all right, I'm gonna have to invest in that to achieve
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but it's my choice.
Yeah. I think it was Jack Nicholson. Um, I think that said something like, everybody always says they want to. Maybe it wasn't him. It was someone famous that said everybody says they want to putt like Jack Nicholson,
Mm.
but not everybody goes out and putts. 5,000 putts a night or whatever. It's like Steph Curry and he shoots those threes every single day over and over and over. So it is that discipline, right? And I think it's the same thing.
Well, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell, right? The 10,000 hours, right? And I think that was true to a degree, right? Is that, to truly be the expert in something, you had the 10,000 hours. I still believe in it. But let's think about AI now. It's one of those moments is like, do you need 10,000 hours to be an expert on it? And probably no.
Nope.
You can do it so much, not
So
even
compressed.
a
You
100
are
hours.
you
I
are
don't
an
think
expert
100
on
hours,
it.
right?
What I think it also stresses, David, is you have to know how to extract what you want. I mean, or at least be able to explain it
Mm-hmm.
in a way and then say, ask me if you're unclear. Ask me any questions if you don't understand. You know, um, and I think that's, you have to have a level of understanding and thinking about the objective and what you want to accomplish in order to be able to describe it. I think, if you can't do that, you're in trouble.
But so then, is it 100 hours? Is it 10 hours? What is the
Yeah.
amount?
It's a fraction. It's
Right,
a,
exactly.
it's a fraction.
It's a fraction, and that's the nice thing is, let's say it's 100 hours, just for sake of
And you
argument.
don't even have to be the expert. You can
Right.
have an expert in no time, and then you are an expert anytime you go back to the expert and ask.
I think that's what makes it so accessible to everybody in the world. Whereas, like, let's say it's 10 hours, right? Everybody can find 10 hours.
Yep.
And if you take some of these courses, there's tons of free ones. Even Anthropic has free courses out there.
Sure.
It's like, wow, you can go from zero to here in just a few hours, right?
It's
And that's what's so different and exciting.
I 2+ years ago, I actually went and I just said, teach me how to prompt. I mean, I wrote this very long and sophisticated prompt of telling me how to prompt and give me an outline on recommend, and that was kind of my introduction. And I got it from AI. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. Gosh, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you taking so much time with us today, David.
Well, Grant, this has been great. We had a great conversation, and I think that we can help many people understanding what's the real potential and where's the world going in this space.
Yeah, get out there, ladies and gentlemen. Get out there, make it AI first. Use it, learn it. I mean, I'm a huge advocate. I believe in it too. So this has been a fantastic episode, and I really appreciate David Cross, Chief Information Security Officer at Atlassian, coming on the program with me, man. Thank you a ton. And ladies and gentlemen, please share it, like it, have your friends listen, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. We'll look forward to having you back on the next episode of Talking Innovation. Take care.